rights and what people choose to believe. The Right Reverend Michael Nazir-Ali, former Bishop of Rochester, told Five Live Breakfast this morning that this judgment is absurd.
Anyone who holds to the Christian faith, or indeed a number of other faiths, because of this ruling will be unable to participate in whole swathes of public life.
Harriet Harman is the Shadow Secretary of State for International Development. She told us she believes it's the right decision.
Our law overrides the scriptures. We don't have a theocracy in this country. People obviously have their own religious beliefs, but as far as the law is concerned, that's made by Parliament. Was yesterday a dark day for Christians or a great day for Britain? 0500 909 693. Good morning. Right, Martin is... where are you, Martin?
Hi, I'm in Newbury.
Need to know. Thank you very much indeed. Let me see now. And we have got Stephen in Leeds. Good morning, Stephen.
Morning.
Hello to you. And Canon Chris Sugden. Hello, Chris.
Good morning, Mr.
Executive Secretary of Anglican Mainstream. And Keith Porteous-Wood, who is the Executive Director of the National Secular Society. Eunice Johns, Keith Porteous-Wood, said yesterday was a dark day for Christians. What do you think, Keith?
Well, I think it's actually a triumph for equality law and for the best interest of the children. That's what the court was interested in, rather than revealed truth taking precedence. And I thought it was interesting that the judge said no one is asserting that Christians, or for that matter Jews or Muslims, are not fit and proper persons to foster or adopt.
So what if those Jews or Muslims or Christians believe that homosexuality is wrong? Are they appropriate people to foster or adopt?
Well, there are an awful lot of people in those categories who don't think that.
I'm not asking about those people, and I accept that is the case.
Well, I think for those
less so in perhaps in Islam than in Christianity.
Indeed, that's very true. I think in those cases, Nikki, we're not talking about the exercise of religious freedom, in my opinion. We're talking about people doing extra things for the state. So I think in those circumstances it is the state's duty to take what the state believes to be the best interests of the child, which may be contrary to biblical standards in some circumstances.
Yes, it's interesting what they've said. I mean, do you think this is significant, their ruling? I mean, the Telegraph infers there are wide-ranging implications from this, saying Britain is largely secular, multicultural country in which the laws of the realm do not include Christianity. I mean, Keith, you must be cheering from the rafters. This is what you've been wanted all your life.
I'm for democratically determined law, and that's religiously neutral. But I think that this is following a very interesting series of cases that have been mainly on employment, which started with a justice called Lord Justice Laws in an Avon Relate case about a councillor who that's councillor of helping on social matters with gay couples, and he refused to do that despite the equal policy of Avon Relate and his contract, and he was sacked for that. And the justice got very annoyed about an intervention by the Archbishop of Canterbury, saying that he wanted there to be a special panel to consider religiously sensitive cases of religiously, implicitly
are people still allowed to believe, if they want to, that homosexuality is wrong? But are they allowed to express that belief?
Well, I think they can express it as long as they're not doing something for the state or impinging on other people. Another case where that was quoted was in the so-called gay hotel case.
Okay, we'll come to those, Keith. Let me tell Chris in just a second. Stephen in Leeds, what do you think, Stephen?
A disgraceful decision. This is all about giving a child love. That is the bottom line. It is giving a child love. The child may have been abused, may have had a very unhappy upbringing. It's about giving a child love, giving a child compassion. And I find it absolutely unbelievable that this decision has been reached. You know, 3 years ago, we had a similar decision. Redbridge Borough Council, if you're a smoker, you're not allowed to foster a child. Even if you smoked one cigarette, does that mean that all smokers are unworthy parents? It's an absolutely disgraceful decision. I don't understand it whatsoever, and I feel very, very sorry for this couple. And let me tell you something else as well. If I had a choice of putting a child, fostering a child with a gay couple or a heterosexual company for the child's benefit, I would say a heterosexual company, purely because if the child goes to school, if the child says, who is your mother, who is your father, the kid is going to get teased. I'm sorry.
Well, Stuart, let's stay there.
I'm sorry.
We're hearing you, as they say. Stuart and Yeovil, I think you think slightly differently to that. Let's hear from you.
I do think very differently. I mean, I respect that gentleman's views, but I think they're sort of stuck in the past. I genuinely think this is a victory for out-and-out common sense, Nicky. I mean, you've only got to look in mainland sort of continental Europe, and you have such diverse views, completely polarised views based on religion on any given subject, and obviously this is a case in point with homosexuality. You know, effectively, you cannot have a law that's based on a premise of your religious persuasion, because it will be infinitely unadministrable or inadministrable. It's you know, I'm a heterosexual man. I wouldn't have any issue whatsoever with a gay or lesbian couple fostering a child, because that gentleman was right. What really matters, and what only matters, is whether that child is loved and cared for and is brought up in that type of environment. But to suggest that religion should have... I mean, there are some anomalies in British law. You know, you can ride a motorbike if you're a Sikh without wearing a crash helmet. So there are some sort of vagaries. But this is clearly a bigger issue. But I genuinely think this is a victory for common sense. And your first contributor to the show was absolutely spot on.
Well, Stephen, do you want to come back?
Me.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry. Surely you're now discriminating against couples who actually believe in the Bible or their interpretation of the Bible. Surely they're being discriminated against.
Well, no, but what I'm discriminating against is, with the greatest respect, sir, you know, I've never met you, and you sound like a decent, honest sort of guy, but the fact of the matter is that your views are based on what you believe in the Scripture. I happen to think, frankly, and with the greatest respect, it's a work of fiction. I put my faith in the judiciary and the rule of law and common sense being administered by level-headed, intelligent, rational people. And there are many examples in the Bible of the absolute polar opposite of that. So are you saying this couple would not be able to give all the love from the bottom of their heart that this child requires, and they are being discriminated against? Well, no, I'm not saying that.
I find it absolutely absurd.
Well, no, what I'm saying is to you that couple clearly have their views, and I respect their views.
Well, what they said was, just to clear it up, and Chris, I know you'll probably be chomping at the bit to come in now, Chris Sugden, but some very interesting calls. What Eunice and Mr. Johns said, Owen Johns, said, we are prepared to love and accept any child. All we are not willing to do was tell a small child that the practice of homosexuality was a good thing. Chris Sugden, homosexuality is legal. There are millions of gay people in this country. Maybe a child, and gay friends of mine tell me that they were born gay. That's discriminatory to tell a child that homosexuality is not a good thing, isn't it?
The argument in this case, Nicky, is not about homosexuality.
It's about Christianity.
The argument is about, and the judges have said, the argument is about what they've set up as an antithesis between a secular state and a theocracy. And that's been reflected in the discussion so far, where people have suggested that laws are, based on revealed truth in the Bible as such. Now, that is not what Christianity suggests. That's not the way Christianity contributes to national life. We're not a theocracy, the judges are quite right, but in terms of a secular state, the question is, where does a secular state get those values? There's a Christian understanding of a secular state where all are citizens, all can contribute their views, all can contribute their understandings of life, which for many people are based on their understanding of religion, to the common good. And then, as has been said, there's a democratic process by which those are all accepted. Now, we've seen that in the past. Take the history of dealing with slavery, or dealing with prison reform, or dealing with universal education. It was actually people with religious motivations.
Slavery is sanctioned in the Bible.
No, it's not. Say slavery is contained and limited in the Bible, and is viewed to be incompatible with humanity. But my point is this: that throughout the history of our country, there have been many movements, religious movements among them, which have contributed to our understanding of the common good. Now, what the judges have said is those are irrelevant. Those cannot contribute to that understanding. And that is what is at the point here. The judges are saying that Christian faith has no business to contribute to our understanding of what should be the
Chris,
law.
I think there's something very interesting about the slavery aspect. You say it was contained in the Bible. You're right, it was recognized in the Bible. You can take slaves, but only from a neighboring state. And, there are various things about slavery, because it was a recognition of values and laws that pertained at the time. Therefore, surely we should recognize the modern world. Do you come in here, Keith?
Yes, I'd like to, because there are two sentences out of the judgment that actually...
Address what Chris just said, so we can have a sort of conversation rather than a series of statements, because Chris said some interesting things there.
No, well, I think that the precepts of no religion, just because it's a religion, shouldn't be the basis of what our law is. It's because it's common sense, and I think what Chris is calling for is, because it's religious, it has to be given special precedence. And that's what the judges didn't think was appropriate. I don't think they were rubbishing Christianity. They were saying sometimes it comes up with what will be accepted as common sense with the knowledge that we have now.
Chris Sugden, Chris Sugden, then, on that point, why should Christianity have a special place?
No, I wasn't arguing that Christianity should have a special place. I was contradicting the judges who say it has no place, and that's a very different thing. Now, when coming to the actual issue, we've been talking about the best interests of the child, and you had a quote from Harriet Harman right at the beginning. Harriet Harman was fundamentally wrong. She says that there are people who think that sexual orientation is wrong. That is not the case. Christians do not think that a person's sexual orientation is wrong. An orientation is not the issue. The issue is behavior and expression. And there are many things that we teach children are against their best interest. It's against their best interest to be violent. It's against their best interest to be bullied.
So it's against their best interest to express their innate sexuality?
Well, we're talking about... what's being talked about is young children of primary age, of between sort of 7 and 8. That's the question now. What the Johns would say is their Christian understanding would be that the best expression of sexual expression is marriage between a man and a woman, which has also been shown, and Lord Sachs said this in the House of Lords recently, is the best environment for the care and nurture of children. A mother and a father in a married relationship is the best beginning for children. Now, what the Johns are saying is they want as Christians to be able to share with those in their care a Christian understanding of life. Now, are we going to end up by saying if foster parents can't do this, then parents can't do this? Is the state going to interfere in what parents can teach their children?
Keith Porteous-Wood?
Well, I think there's a fundamentally different situation where the state is actually acting and making choices to be in the interests of the child, and I think that's a very different situation. I wonder what would happen if the Johns had been given a gay child to foster. Would they say to it, for example, that if you express a homosexual orientation, and young kids do have these orientations, not all but some, then they will, in biblical terms, go to hell and be damned forever, because that's the logical progression of the John's position.
Archie in Guernsey. Hello, Archie.
Oh, hi there, Nicky. How are you?
Fine, thank you. On you go.
Yeah, look, I was just responding after hearing Harriet Harman's comments this morning, because I just don't think... I think it's political madness over actual... the needs that people have. To say that she always says that. Harriet Harman comes on and always speaks politically correctly, but what we're talking about is children who are often underprivileged, who are being the opportunity to be given a home. And, how far do you go with the testing? Do you test for people to see if they're racist, if they've got any other discriminations? I mean, surely the most important thing is to get children into a home.
Chris, you said in the paper today that it's quoted in the paper that they're treating religion, these judges, and I've been quoting it all morning because it's an amusing phrase, they've been treating religion as if Christian faith was on a parallel with Melanesian frog worship. Yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, why is it greater than Melanesian frog worship in terms of the law?
Okay, why is Christian faith greater than Melanesian frog worship? Is because Christian faith claims to be the faith in God as our Creator, revealed in Jesus as His Son, who died and rose again and brings us the hope and the future of eternal life and a new heaven and a new earth where right relationships will prevail. That is the big story.
But don't, pardon me for being, but this is what some people are saying by text. Don't the Melanesians believe exactly the same thing about their frogs?
Well, they would believe about their frogs. Yes, they would believe that the frog is some sort of source of blessing and some sort of source of fertility. But this has not been shown to be the tested historically. It's not been tested universally. It isn't tested by the various canons by which Christian faith would be tested.
Like the virgin birth, presumably.
Well, the virgin birth is a very important teaching.
20 minutes, we're into the virgin birth. That's not bad going, gentlemen.
The point is that the judges are suggesting that all religious belief is entirely private, is entirely individual, and is all on the same level. And that is manifestly not true.
Okay, listen, Willow, let's regroup. Your call, Sarah in Cheshire. Hello, Sarah.
Hiya.
And Mickey's in Portsmouth. Good morning, Mickey.
Good morning.
Right, and we still have Canon Chris Sugden and Keith Porteous-Wood. Sarah, what would you like to say?
I don't often agree with Harriet Harman, but I do in this case. We don't live in a theocracy, and whilst years ago it might have been appropriate to make laws based around religious beliefs, it's not in today's society.
Really?
And I think religious beliefs are used to defend a lot of prejudices, and I don't agree with that. The same as I wouldn't agree that people with racial prejudices should be allowed to foster children.
You think it's the same? A racial prejudice or a prejudice against someone's sexuality is on a par, yeah. Mickey, I don't think you agree with that, do you?
No, I'm sorry. I can't agree with that at all. No. We keep hearing about all this. We don't need to be controlled by religion today.
Are you talking into the phone?
Sorry?
There's a heck of a noise going on here. Let's just take Mickey out for a second. We'll try and get Mickey back in when we get a better line. Sarah, are you still with us?
Yes, I am, yeah.
All right. Mickey's line was a bit dodgy there. We'll have Bob in Leeds, then we'll come to Keith and Chris. Bob, not your real name, but you're a social worker. So what do you think about this? This caring couple... Hello, Bob.
Yes, hi there.
This caring couple who fostered many, I think it's up to 20 children over the years, but just have a problem with this issue, as do, many committed Christians. Is it... Some people think this is a scandal that they will no longer be allowed to foster.
I think if people actually listen to the arguments about the real argument about this, the point is that the couple are looking after children on behalf of the state. So it is the state who is protecting the child. They just happen to be placed with this couple. Now, the views of individuals, of course, they can be religious, but they cannot espouse deeply disturbing, quite frankly, opinions about, say, homosexuality. Perhaps I heard a guy say earlier on the most ridiculous thing about racism. Should we check to see if people are racist? Well, of course we should. Of course we should. We shouldn't have people... We're effectively employing these people and paying them an awful lot of money to look after children. So this
surely applies to faith schools as well?
Absolutely. I mean, in my personal opinion, that religious values are... I'll have to say deluded, right? But I accept that people are allowed to have them, and they're allowed to have different ones, and that there are nice people in all sects of religion. My personal opinion is they are deluded, completely deluded, for believing this. But that wouldn't exclude them from being a nice person and looking after a vulnerable child. But the idea that a guy said earlier on, Well, there are lots of children waiting to go into homes. Oh, well, let's just send them anywhere. Let's just send them to Ian Huntley. Let's just send them... Of course, the ultimate check...
Well, hang on, well, yeah, but come on, Ian Huntley was, killer.
Yeah, absolutely. What his implication was, though, Nicky, that how far do we check? We don't really need to check, do we? It's racist or... it's quite frankly, it's ridiculous. The ultimate checks have to go. That couple, the only way that they needed to get round this was to say, we do not believe in homosexuality as a lifestyle. However, if a child asks me about homosexuality, perhaps that is a young person who may have feelings that they may be homosexual. It's a very confusing time. If you are then told homosexuality is wrong, I'll give you this chapter in the Bible which says you should be put to death, and man will not sleep with man, and this is a teenager. How is this going to make this teenager feel?
Chris Sugden.
Well, two responses to that. First of all, where does all this stop? If it's wrong for foster parents to give this information to children, why is it wrong? Why is it not wrong, therefore, in this view, for parents to pass it?
Because the state are looking after the children.
Well, here we're into sort of totalitarianism.
No, we are not. That is ridiculous.
This notion that the state is all-powerful. The state sets the values, the state pays the money. The whole thing about the big society, I'm not advocating that at this point, but it's trying to develop the notion that volunteering, that people contributing their perspectives, their understanding to the common good, and that's the point, to the common good, is a good thing.
So hang on, I'm intrigued by this, Bob. If we're paying, we should have a say. Is that what you're saying, Bob? In Leeds, that's your name, remember. It's not your real name, but it's the one you're going under. Sorry. If we're paying, we should have a say, and we should be very careful about what people believe, yeah?
Of course.
But we pay lots of money to people who are on benefits. Should we then concentrate on what they believe and what they teach their children in their homes?
No, because we are talking about the actual care of children. There's a specific issue. We need to make sure, often these children are damaged. We're talking about the state having a responsibility.
We pay child support. We pay child support money to people. We pay.
Of course we do. But the government cannot tell people what to do. But effectively, you're missing the point in that. What I am saying is,
I'm deliberately missing the point.
I know you
that's
are.
What I do.
I know you are, because I don't know which side you're on. But that we are paying these people.
No, you don't. Go on.
Okay. These people are employed. They're employed effectively. They're not individuals, charitable workers. They get hundreds of pounds a week for doing a job for the local authority, because we feel it's better to have children in a loving family than in a children's home. Okay, they're employees of the council.
Right. So, sorry, Chris, I interrupted, but I think the interesting point is that if a child is confused about their sexuality and they go to Eunice and Owen Johns or another couple, as Bob says, and they are told that this practice is not a good thing, it is wrong, and it says in the Bible that they will go to hell if they do it. That's a form of child abuse, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Canon Chris Sugden?
And it's state-employed child abuse, Nicky. That's the thing. It would be state-employed.
Chris Sugden.
And harassment, sorry.
Thank you. I think we've got to look fairly properly at how Christians, Christian teachers, Christian youth workers, Christian pastors engage with people who say that they have homosexual same-sex attraction. They do not say to them what you suggest is said to them, that they'll go to hell, any more than anybody else who infringes, God's best for humanity does. I mean, going to hell is something about the whole issue of human sin or rebelling against God. Okay, it's not for any particular wrongdoing. Now, if people have the view that, first of all, this orientation is something that may exist, but like many other desires, inclinations we have, are not in people's best interests. They're harmful to oneself in the long run. They're not in the best interest in the long run. It is right and proper that we could be able to offer people a choice.
You are opening a completely different debate.
Hold on.
You are now offering a debate to say, is homosexuality right, or is it wrong, or is it good for society? Now, we're not having that debate.
Well, I'm sorry, but that has been brought up both by Nikki and by Harriet Harman in her statements today. I said at the beginning this wasn't the issue. Yeah. This wasn't the issue. You've now made it the issue. This is because of what you've been talking about for a little while. I'm saying is, if you actually knew how people handle these matters, you wouldn't be making the accusations
give us an
you're
example.
Nick.
Give us an example how someone would handle that matter then, to a sensitive 12-year-old.
Well,
I think, I'll play the 12-year-old if you like. Mum or Dad, I've been feeling that I'm quite attracted to a boy at school in a strange way. It's never happened to me before, and I've heard about homosexuality and gay people. Could you please help me and advise me?
Hey, yes, of course. It is very natural as young people grow up, as they change through puberty from being a child into being an adult, that many changes take place in their bodies, and the whole nature of their attractions, the whole nature of their desires matures, and it is well known that over a quarter of young boys, and also young girls have same-sex attractions. It is quite part of the developing process.
Yes.
Okay, but the important point is, at this point, that for no 12-year-old is it proper to engage in any form of genital-based sexual activity.
Of course not, and we're not arguing that at all, are we? We're just having a view. That was quite nice. Okay, I'm now 16 years old. I'm still in a long-term placement with you, and I say, those feelings that I've talked to you about before, they are still there, and I would like to act more on those feelings. What would the answer be then?
Well, again, to say that you have a choice, and God always gives us a choice.
Yes.
And I think what the Johns would do, and what I would do, would be to say the choice is before you.
Yes.
What is the teaching of the Christian faith, and what is shown to be by many studies, for the best, is that you spend your life in a relationship with a woman, as a boy or as a man,
but I don't feel like
have children. Hold on. And have children, and that has been shown to be the most fulfilling, that has shown to be, in many cases, the most healthy, the most productive way of life. There is another way. Another way would be to indulge those desires, and you can,
in a loving relationship with another man.
Yeah, there is a way to indulge those desires, but the responsibility on us is to advise you thus and so. Now, it's not to make...
Just clarify that, but it's to advise you what, sorry?
It's not to tell you which choice to make.
Yes.
It is to give you the option and the pros and cons with each, as you would do with a teenager on any matter.
What are the pros of a gay relationship, Chris?
Sorry?
What are the pros? If you give the pros and cons of each option, what are the pros of having a loving relationship with somebody of your own sex?
Well, there are many relationships that are between people of the same sex without sexual expression. Think of Morecambe and Wise. They had a terrific... No,
Chris, you bring me...
Can I come in, please?
Chris, Keith, unfortunately, we're way over time. I think... But Chris, thank you very much for coming, and Bob, likewise. You both bring me sunshine in your smiles.
Well,
you both bring me laughter.
Well, I'm afraid Chris doesn't bring me any whatsoever. The life will go on.
But I just want to say, in this world where we live, there should be more happiness.
Absolutely.
Let's reconvene. Good morning. Let me just remind you, what's on the agenda this morning was yesterday a dark day for Christians, so says Eunice and Owen Johns, that's at the High Court. They said they held normal mainstream Christian views, and judges have backed a fostering ban on anti-gay couples and have said some very interesting things in the judgment about the place of Christianity in the law in our society. Chris is in Telford, and Dave in Liverpool, Fiona in Thurso in the Highlands, and let me see now, Rob is in Ilkley, and Andrea joins us as well. I'm delighted about that. She is Andrea Williams. Hello, Andrea.
Hello.
From the Christian Legal Centre. You must be disturbed about the comments of some of these judges.
Yes, it is deeply disturbing, and I think in many ways it's the whole unravelling of the equalities legislation, which in many ways would be better named the inequalities legislation, because what it's led to, as we've seen in case after case, but particularly in the case yesterday, is the exclusion of Christians who hold mainstream orthodox biblical views from the public sphere. So that's very difficult. They also
absolutely flawed arguments.
It's not a flawed argument.
Who's that?
Dave from Liverpool.
In a second, Dave. Go on, Andrew.
Yeah. No, that isn't flawed at all. You see, because again, perhaps what David's going to say is going to say something along the lines of Christians are free to believe, but there are limitations on the manifestation of their belief. That's what the judges keep on saying.
Well, let me
but you
come
know,
back
not
on
the
it.
freedom.
In a minute.
But if you're not free to live out your faith, to believe your faith, to speak your faith, then that freedom's worth absolutely nothing at all. And most disturbingly, the judges were talking. Dave, what do you suggest? If people aren't free to speak, if people aren't free to live,
all right, Dave.
then,
Okay, let's get. Let's. Dave's obviously desperate to come in here, and he's shaking the curtain like Eric Morecambe used to do, and he's on the stage. Dave, and we'll get Andrew to respond to what is your point?
Right. I was going to have a different premise, but I'm just going to respond to what that woman has said. She spoke about equal opportunities and diversity, and that's exactly what the argument is about. It's about that couple would not adhere to the mainstream outlook of equal opportunities and diversity.
To the law, essentially.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And the other thing, on the religious side, right, I'm a great believer in religious diversity. I am not a Christian, right, but I believe in religious diversity, but I don't go and throw it down everybody's throat. No, I'm not saying what my religion is. It doesn't matter. As long as you adhere to what is expected of you, especially as what the other social worker said, in that context, they were employees of the local authority. They did not do that. To conclude, you are now dealing with a silly micro argument rather than a macro argument.
No, we're dealing with a macro argument. You know, when a government-funded body such as the Equality Commission makes a submission which implicitly the judges accept that people that hold the views of Eunice and Owen Johns...
They're government-funded as well. They're publicly funded as well.
Exactly, they're publicly funded. Yeah. That's holding such views, and we're talking about Christian views. We're talking about mainstream biblical views. When Eunice and Owen Johns
is it mainstream to be anti-gay then?
No, it's not anti-gay at all. Eunice and Owen Johns have said repeatedly...
Oh, so they're pro-gay?
Eunice and Owen Johns have said repeatedly that they would love any child and they would love a homosexual child. What they would not be able to say is that the practice of homosexual sex is good. That's not they would not be able to say that. That's the only thing that they have said. They would say that it's contrary. Dave, what they would say is this. They would say, I'm going to answer your question. I'm actually going to answer your question.
Listen to Andrea.
I'm going to answer your question because just as Christians across the world and the teaching of the church in this country says quite clearly, not just that homosexual sex is contrary to God's word, but that all sex outside of marriage is wrong. And we know as parents that, you know, we will raise our children according to our own moral code, our moral and ethical code, and if Christians are Christians, they'll seek to raise them within those precepts. Children may differ.
Point on raising children in religion.
Who's that?
It's Chris from Telford.
Oh, let me bring up. I'll come in a second. Rob in Ilkley, do you want to come in here, Rob?
Yeah, I do, Nicky. It's really, it's quite distressing for me. Not dismal. Listening to these supposed learned theologians spouting what all Christians believe in the world. I was brought up in a deeply Christian household. I was brought up to have like good morals and to live a good life. At no point was I brought up to believe that that anybody was wrong for leading a good life. And there are many gay people that lead absolutely wonderful lives. Does that mean that they are bad people? I'm sick of listening to people spouting that Christians aren't compatible with gays. Where in Christ's teachings does Christ say that you shouldn't tolerate a certain group of people?
Well, also, I mean,
quite a lot in the teachings it says that actually.
Who's that?
It's Chris from Telford. In God's teachings, it actually says that if you allow sodomy, as it's called in the Scripture, that the civilization will collapse. I think that one of the stories of Moses is that he sent his armies to destroy civilization because they allowed a homosexual act within the civilization.
Can I just respond to that, please?
Well, no, I want to bring in Anna in Kent because everyone, calm down just a little bit. Anna in Kent. I mean, the issue here as well. It's broader than just talking again about homosexuality, because the ruling is really interesting in what they say about where Christianity lies in our society and in our laws and in belief system that informed our laws. I mean, this is... Some people are saying this has got pretty big implications. Anna in Kent. Hello, Anna.
Hello. My point really, and what fired me up to get in touch was I grew up in a family that fostered children, but also maintains the view that homosexual practice isn't the ideal, or as many Christians have said, is wrong. We fostered over 40 children and provided a loving and stable home for them. I don't think the two things are incompatible. And I think it's wider than the homosexuality issue. If a foster child had come to me and asked about relationships in general, I think parental responsibility is, or in my case, responsibility as a sibling of those foster children, is to give them a range of views and allow them to make an informed choice. And I think that is the responsibility of parents in general. So whether they were asking about their homosexual feelings or their desire to enter into a sexual relationship that wasn't part of being in a stable, long-term relationship, I would give them a range of points of view and explain to them that some people think this, I think that, but...
Yeah, Andrea, what's wrong with doing that? What's wrong with having the perspicacity to be able to do that? Say, well, some people believe that. I don't happen to believe that, but some people do, and some people believe this. And then there are others who say this. Andrea, is that such a big problem?
Well, I think as parents, very often, as parents, if we just go into our own situations, you raise them against the backdrop of your own beliefs, whoever you are. And so I'm raising my 4 children, raising them up and teaching them all about Jesus.
Are you teaching them that homosexuality is wrong?
I'm teaching them that I'm asking my children to stay pure until marriage. I'm teaching them that all sex outside of marriage is wrong.
What about inside marriage?
So, I didn't quite catch that. But of course,
what about homosexual sexual acts inside marriage?
Inside homosexual marriage,
homosexuals can't get married. It's not.
Okay,
it's not defined as marriage. Marriage is between a man. It's a lifelong union between a man and a woman, and to have children within that construct, that's been so since the beginning of time. So to try and rewrite that in 21st century Britain is quite.
What will you do
how
old are your children?
My children are aged between 8 and 16.
Right, 10 years. As time moves on, what if one of them were to be gay?
I would love my children, whatever. I would love them, and I would lay down my life for them. I'd speak to them.
Yeah. So
I'd do absolutely anything for my children. But just because I love them doesn't mean to say that I necessarily would approve. If they decided, I would necessarily approve of whatever their behaviour might be. Yeah. And that's parents. My dad certainly hauled me up, and on many occasions in my life for doing things that he thinks are overstepping the mark, and that's how I've been raised, and that's helped to form my character. That's the you see, this is the point. This is the natural part about parenting. It's about naturally loving, naturally giving, and whatever the child does, you still go on and love. That's the unconditional love of a parent. But parents also need to discipline, and parents also are free and should be free in a civilised society to raise their children according to their beliefs.
Okay, Colin. Hello, Colin. Colin's Dave, I will come to you, I know, but Colin's in Norbury. Are you there, Colin?
I'd love to come back to Dave.
Who's that?
Anna. I think I didn't
That's not
probably make
Colin.
my point very... No, I'm not Colin.
No, you're not. Anna, go on.
I don't know if I made my point very clearly before, but I think Dave just summed it up in a sentence. Andrea said that she would love her children unconditionally, whatever their decisions. And Dave said, what's the problem then? And I think that's exactly it. If a family is able to provide a loving and stable family for a child who is really in need of that, and they're able to love that child unconditionally, whatever their decisions about sexuality or about any other moral issue, then what is the problem? I'm terrified by the thought that in the future, if I wish to continue my family's legacy and foster children myself, that my beliefs about sex or any other moral issue
may prohibit me from doing that.
And you'll get some Spanish Inquisition about it.
Absolutely. And is it preferable that families that are Christian or any other religion or of no faith at all fob their way through the system or even lie in order to be able to go forward and fulfil, their ambitions of being able to provide a family for a child? Or is it better that they're upfront about their beliefs, but also very clearly get across that they're going to love that child, whatever, and allow that child to grow up to make their own informed choices?
Dave, go on.
Sorry.
Go on, Dave.
Well, I'd just like to say here to that lady, well done. And I just want to say to the Christian woman, as I said, I'm not a Christian. I believe that everybody has the right to practice whatever religion they have. But at the end of the day, you've got to keep that to yourself. And I bring it back to the first point of my arguments. It's not about Christianity. It's about equal opportunities and diversity.
Christians can't take their, Christians can't leave their belief at the front door when they leave the house in the morning.
That's one of the flaws of Christianity.
No, it's
then,
not. Christianity is not just a private belief system. It's a public belief system. It actually affects everything that a Christian...
I think it does infect a lot of people.
Are you saying homosexuals should keep that to themselves? Because that's not what Christians are saying, and you're saying that a Christian should keep their views to themselves under wraps, don't express it. If we said the same thing about homosexuality, there would be an absolute outcry, because it is about us being individuals, expressing who we are, but not imposing that on other people, allowing them to make their own choices. And if my child... Sorry?
One last point, if you don't mind me coming in there. Have you finished what you said?
That's very polite of you, Dave, given your Gatling gun interruptions of Andrea earlier on. But that's all fine. It's all fine. Go on, Dave. Go on.
Just a quick one. You said about marriage as well. Well, what about civil partnerships? That for lesbian and gay people. Once they're in a civil partnership, they can have a physical, loving relationship.
I don't think Andrew's going to buy that.
Well, does she?
Is that to me?
Andrea, yeah, civil partnerships.
Well, civil partnerships were introduced, and clearly the government said at that point that they were not to be like marriage. But Ben Summerskill of Stonewall, the homosexual lobby group, said that was just the beginning, a first step in order to normalise and equate civil partnership with marriage. Next, the family. Same as Peter Tatchell when he talked about the as a member of the Gay Liberation Front back in 2004. He talked about overthrowing the marriage system in this country, and that's it's actually a very determined agenda.
Do you think there is an agenda here? Well,
by the homosexual lobby.
It's not just what you call the homosexual lobby. I'm thinking, it's more complex than that. But hang on, wait. It's about the place of Christianity in our society, and that's the overarching thing in our debate this morning.
Yeah, I think I wanted to actually speak to you just a moment on that.
I've got a good point here on religion in general.
Andrew, I'll come to you in a second, but I will come back to you in a second. Kingsley in New Cross. Good morning, Kingsley. Make a point quickly if you could.
Good morning, Nicky.
Good morning.
What I'm afraid of is that this country of ours is heading in the direction that is making a lot of us to be afraid. You call it in the name of religion, but these are values that brought foundation to this country, upon which it exported and brought stability to many nations of the world. And we are deviating from them because we label it as religion. The Christian belief does not hate any human being. It seeks to save, it seeks to redeem, it seeks to set people from wrong views and wrong values into the right path. And we are deviating from them in the name of politically being correct. It is not right. If we don't go back to this foundation, the future of this country is being threatened, because we immigrate into this country from all nations with all our barbaric acts, and this country is telling us it is okay to do it, it is okay to practice it.
To practice
what?
What?
To practice some of these barbaric acts.
What's the name?
Continue them.
Give me a barbaric act.
A barbaric act is take, for example, idol worship, which held people bound in so many countries.
Idol worship.
Yes,
we're back
idol
to
worship.
Milesian frog worship, aren't we? Which was something we were talking about earlier on. Although that's not, maybe the frog's not an idol one. Andrea, what was your point about the law?
The point was really yesterday that for me it's one of great sadness when senior members of the judiciary say that we're secular judges sitting in a multicultural world, which, of course, David Cameron spoke just a couple of weeks ago about the fact that multiculturalism had failed.
State multiculturalism.
And also...
do you believe that multiculturalism has failed?
Multiculturalism has failed. It's led to segregation, not
Kingsley,
integration.
who just spoke there so articulately, who came into this country, he's a Christian man. He's a living example of multiculturalism. Well, how can you say it's failed?
Well,
Andrea?
I think what's happening. No, see there. But what is Kingsley asking for? Kingsley is asking for
Christian values.
Christian values, the neighbourhood, the hospitality, the welcome that Christianity brings.
No, you don't sound very welcoming.
The free flourishing of society. That's what we find that Christianity has provided. And actually, the more that we've gone, everyone holding individual views, individual rights that vie in the public space, what that's led to is a kind of isolation between communities, and that's a great sadness.
So yesterday, no time, Kingsley. Andrea, was yesterday a dark day for Christianity?
It was a very sobering day, but we hope that we will see the full unravelling of what's going on, and that the people will wake up and actually want to return to Christian values.
Oh, how narrow-minded, you silly woman.
Well, Dave.
Oh, a bit harsh.
Nicky, I'll give you a barbaric act.
We'll run out of time, unfortunately, but listen, thank you all very much indeed. Andrea, thank you for coming on from the Christian Legal Centre. Have a good day.
Thank you.